Buried beneath the relentless sands of Egypt. A secret has been sleeping for thousands of years, untouched, undisturbed, and completely beyond our comprehension. It wasn't supposed to exist. The structure didn't appear on any map. No hieroglyphs mentioned it. No legend hinted at it. But when archaeologists stumbled upon a strange, oddly symmetrical mound just west of Saqqara, what they uncovered would change everything. Inside this pyramid wasn't the sarcophagus of a forgotten pharaoh. It was the preserved body of something far more ancient, far more advanced, and not even human. For centuries, the Great Pyramids of Egypt have been icons of mystery, mastery, and myth. Civilizations across the globe have looked upon them in awe, wondering how were they built? Who were they really built for? Now, all of those questions are back, louder, bolder, and deadlier than ever. Because the latest discovery doesn't just challenge Egyptology, it obliterates it. Sealed inside a newly discovered underground pyramid was not a king or a priest, but a being with elongated skull structure, non-human bone density, and skin preserved by unknown substances. An inscription near the tomb read one word, in ancient Sumerian Anunnaki, a name long dismissed as myth. A race whispered about in fringe books and conspiracy forums. A species said to have descended from the stars. But now, they're no longer theory, they're evidence. And their tomb just became ground zero for the single most terrifying rewrite of human history. Let's rewind to the beginning of this mind-shattering discovery. The moment an innocent scan of the desert floor revealed something no one was prepared to find. It all began with a satellite anomaly. An unmapped geometric formation was detected beneath the western desert fringe of Saqqara, an area thought to be thoroughly explored. What appeared to be a natural dune was, upon closer inspection with ground-penetrating radar, a nearly perfect rectangular prism buried beneath 30 feet of sand and stone. It wasn't on any excavation map. No tomb registries. No recorded ruins. Just emptiness. A small, specialized team was dispatched under heavy non-disclosure agreements. No press releases, no academic announcements. Just quiet activity and unmarked equipment flown in under the guise of geological survey work. When they broke through the outer limestone casing, they expected tomb robbers, damage, or a looted burial shaft. Instead, they found a completely sealed entrance, untouched, unbreached, and impossibly preserved. The air inside hadn't moved in millennia. What lay beyond that entrance was not Egyptian. Not entirely. The walls were covered in carvings, but not in hieroglyphs. They were inscribed in a mix of early proto-cuneiform and a language no linguist could immediately identify. The symbols were angular, tight, and symmetrical, resembling star maps or circuit patterns more than writing. But it wasn't the walls that shook the team to their core. At the heart of the chamber, suspended on a floating stone platform held aloft by unknown magnetic forces, was a sarcophagus unlike anything in Egypt's known history. It was forged not from gold, but a dark, matte metal. Cool to the touch, impossible to scratch. And unlike any material found on Earth, the moment they opened it, the timeline of humanity fractured. Inside was a body. Mummified, perfectly preserved, but wrong. The skull was elongated and oval-shaped. The eye sockets were too wide. The sternum had extra cartilage, and the spinal column held vertebrae no human has. Its skin, leathery and grayish-blue, was wrapped in a fabric embedded with microscopic filaments, like synthetic threads fused with organic tissue. At the base of the sarcophagus, a single plaque in ancient Sumerian Anunnaki, first observer of mankind. At that point, the excavation was immediately sealed off. Personnel were flown out. Equipment was confiscated. The site was buried once more. Rumors leaked, some grainy images, some whispered notes, but then silence. Official silence. No public statement was ever made. No museums received new artifacts. The official records say the dig was cancelled due to structural instability, but the silence itself spoke volumes. A few months later, multiple members of the excavation team either disappeared, left academia entirely, or refused to speak on record. One anonymous insider claimed the body was taken to a remote military facility in the U.S. under diplomatic secrecy. Others believed it was destroyed or hidden beneath the Vatican. Or worse, studied in silence by those who never intended the truth to be known. The story sounds insane until you see the few leaked images that circulated briefly before being wiped from public forums. A blurry, partially unzipped body bag, an elongated skull, a hand with 6 fingers. And then, nothing. But who, or what, were the Anunnaki really? And why would one be buried beneath an Egyptian pyramid thousands of years before they were ever supposed to exist? For decades, the name Anunnaki hovered at the edges of mainstream history. Dismissed by academics, worshipped by fringe theorists, and buried under layers of ancient myth and modern ridicule. But now, it's on the lips of every government, every scientist, every soul who saw the leaked images. So, who were they? The Anunnaki first appear in the earliest written records of human civilization, the Sumerian tablets from over 6,000 years ago. In those texts, they are described not as spirits or gods of nature, but as beings, flesh and blood, who descended from the sky in fire and thunder. They brought language. They taught agriculture. They showed mankind how to build temples and how to worship. The term Anunnaki literally means those who came from the heavens. According to Sumerian myth, they ruled the earth before humans ever learned to write. They were the originators of kingship, the ones who bestowed divine right. And more chillingly, they didn't just interact with humans. Some stories suggest they made humans. Ancient texts, like the Enuma Elish and the Epic of Atrahasis, describe the Anunnaki as genetic engineers, creating mankind as a labor force to mine resources, particularly gold. They supposedly combined their own celestial DNA with primitive hominids to give rise to us. Sound absurd? It used to. But the strange hybrid corpse found in the pyramid, the non-human body with trace markers in its cellular structure resembling human mitochondrial DNA, has reignited all of these ancient claims. And more alarmingly, it's given them new credibility. Now the scientific community is at war with itself. Traditional Egyptologists are scrambling to reinterpret thousands of years of history. Linguists are frantically trying to translate the unknown inscriptions, which now appear in both Mesopotamian ziggurats and forgotten Egyptian ruins. Even mainstream historians, once skeptical of cross-civilization contact before 500 BCE, are forced to confront impossible similarities in mythologies across the globe. Why do so many ancient cultures describe sky gods with advanced knowledge? Why do pyramids appear independently in Egypt, Mesoamerica, and Asia? Why do their gods all descend from the stars? For those who have studied the Anunnaki theories for years, the pyramid discovery is not a revelation, it's a confirmation. Authors like Saqqara Sitchin, once dismissed as pseudoscientific eccentrics, are now being reread with newfound urgency. Their theories of ancient astronauts, orbital mining operations, and genetic manipulation are no longer pure fantasy. They may be archaeological fact. But this raises another, darker question. If the Anunnaki were real, are they gone? Or did they leave something behind? Or worse, did they never leave at all? Whispers have begun to circulate that the recovered body isn't the only one, that there are others, sites unreported, tombs still buried, encounters quietly classified, and that the discovery we know about might have only gone public by accident. With the world now forced to take the Anunnaki seriously, science rushes to catch up. But as the evidence stacks up, it becomes clear. This is no longer a fringe belief. It's the beginning of a new era, and a global reckoning is about to begin. Once the leaked photos began circulating, before they vanished without a trace, the world demanded answers. But what followed wasn't clarity. It was chaos. behind closed doors. The body was quietly transferred to a top-secret biocontainment facility. Allegedly, no public footage. No open science. But insiders, whistleblowers, and former intelligence officers began to speak, cautiously, anonymously. Some claimed advanced scanning revealed 2 hearts and 3 lung chambers. Others said the brain structure extended down the spinal column. Most disturbing of all, the body contained no trace of decay. It hadn't just been preserved, it looked almost hibernated. Then came the rumors of genetic testing. According to one leak, the mitochondrial DNA bore over 60% similarity to humans. But with an extra chromosome pair, something not seen in any life form on Earth. If true, this wasn't just a non-human species. It was our cousin. Or our creator. Mainstream scientific institutions were quick to reject these claims. Official statements said no such body existed. No anomalous pyramid had been found. The images were fabricated. The story, a hoax. But that denial came too fast, too coordinated, and too absolute. In an age of instant information and digital footprints, total silence only made the truth feel louder. The public response was explosive. Forums lit up. Subreddits went wild. TikTok was flooded with theories, fake news, and breakdown videos. Then came the takedowns. Entire YouTube channels vanished overnight. Accounts posting high-resolution versions of the alleged corpse were permanently banned. Even archived versions from independent servers were systematically purged. And that's when it clicked for many. This wasn't a cover-up in progress. It was a cover-up already completed. Across the globe, institutional trust began to fracture. Religious leaders struggled to reinterpret sacred texts in light of this potential new origin story. Some warned of a satanic deception. Others embraced the Anunnaki as the Elohim or Nephilim of old. A few even claimed this confirmed humanity's divine purpose as a species chosen to evolve. Governments, meanwhile, remained silent. But leaks continued to trickle out. A blurry infrared scan showing bones glowing with faint radiation. A laboratory document with redacted coordinates and one line highlighted. Specimen is not of terrestrial origin, or a point unknown. Possibility, exoplanetary. Suddenly, old anomalies started resurfacing in new light. Why did the pyramids align so precisely with Orion's belt? Why did the Dogon tribe in Africa know about Sirius B, a star invisible without modern telescopes? Why do cave paintings from vastly different continents all depict towering beings with elongated heads and halos of light? The evidence was never hidden. It was ignored. Now, for the first time in history, humanity was looking at itself and realizing the reflection might not be fully human. And as these questions gained traction, a terrifying idea began to emerge. What if this wasn't a new discovery? What if it was an old secret that slipped through the cracks? What if the governments of the world had known about the Anunnaki for decades, maybe even centuries, and were willing to rewrite history itself to keep that truth buried? With the truth now spilling into the open, one final question burns brighter than the rest. What exactly did the Anunnaki do to us? And why were they here in the first place? The moment the scientific community was forced to take the Anunnaki seriously, the historical timeline began to collapse like a fragile house of cards. Everything, our earliest myths, our gods, our sudden leaps in agriculture, math, and engineering, started to look different under the shadow of one possibility. We were never alone. We were never the first. And we were never the architects of our own story. Let's rewind to the earliest civilizations. In Sumer, the Anunnaki were gods who descended from the heavens and walked among men. In Egypt, the year of Osiris, Thoth, and Ra, figures of impossible wisdom and long reigns, some ruling for thousands of years. Sound mythical? Maybe? But what if those reigns weren't myths, just misunderstood timelines of beings who lived longer than us? Even the book of Genesis echoes the same story. The sons of God came down to earth and took wives among the daughters of men. A poetic metaphor or a genetic program. Ancient construction sites offer more clues. The Great Pyramid, built with laser-precise alignments, using 2.3 million stones weighing up to 80 tons each. And arranged with mathematical constants and the golden ratio embedded in its geometry, has long been considered an architectural impossibility for its time. Now, with the Anunnaki theory back in focus, it begins to make too much sense. What if it wasn't built by slaves, but supervised by beings with advanced engineering knowledge, possibly even gravity manipulation or sonic levitation? Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dated to over 11,000 years ago, features intricate carvings of constellations, animals, and tools, centuries before agriculture supposedly began. Again, primitive hands or divine teachers. And then there's the human genome. Why does our DNA contain junk segments that serve no known biological function but appear to be artificially inserted? Why did Homo sapiens leap from basic survival to complex language, religion, and astronomy in a geological blink of an eye? One theory gaining traction in genetic circles is called directed panspermia. The idea that life on Earth may have been seeded or engineered by external intelligence. But now, some are going further. Not only were we seeded, we were shaped. The Anunnaki, it seems, may not have just visited us. They may have made us, or remade us. A recently resurfaced translation of the Sumerian epic of Enki tells of a being who defied the other gods by giving early humans the knowledge of consciousness. Sound familiar? That's not just Sumerian myth, it mirrors the story of Prometheus. Of the serpent in Eden, a forbidden knowledge being handed down to those unworthy of it. The same story told again and again, under different names, in different lands. Not coincidence. Pattern. Some researchers now believe that humans were biologically engineered by the Anunnaki to be intelligent laborers. Part organic, part experimental. A species custom designed for Earth's gravity, atmospheric pressure, and mineral wealth, especially gold. In fact, gold plays an oddly specific role in these ancient myths. The Anunnaki, according to the Atrahasis, needed gold to stabilize the atmosphere of their dying home planet. They came to Earth for it, used early humans as miners. And then, after genetic upgrades, left behind their creations to govern themselves. But if that's true, why didn't they return? Or did they? Some say they never left. That certain bloodlines, royal families, secret societies, elite circles, carry fragments of Anunnaki genetics. That ancient knowledge has been preserved in temples, in vaults, in rituals passed through generations, not for reverence, but for control. And that the pyramid discovery in Egypt was not the first contact with the Anunnaki. It was just the first one the public almost found out about. With humanity's origin story now up for grabs, the world begins to fracture. Not just in belief, but in power. Because whoever controls the Anunnaki narrative might control humanity's future. The moment the Anunnaki were no longer dismissed as mythology, the world split, not along borders, but along belief. Governments didn't release statements. They released silence. And in that silence, humanity filled the void with panic, hope, rage, and devotion. Some nations treated the discovery as a national security threat, immediately classifying any archaeological sites suspected to hold non-human artifacts. Entire dig teams vanished from public view. Museums were audited for misidentified relics. Some sources claimed that even the Vatican began secretly excavating deep storage vaults, re-examining ancient scrolls with new eyes. Or maybe they already had. Others reacted differently. A few countries, particularly in South America and Southeast Asia, opened citizen-led research groups, allowing the public to examine anomalous ruins long dismissed by mainstream historians. Their rationale was simple. If our origins are being rewritten, no institution has the right to keep that truth sealed. But religion fractured most violently. For some, the Anunnaki were the fallen angels of the Book of Enoch. For others, they were the true Elohim. Hindu texts, like the Vedas, which described flying chariots, vimanas, and celestial wars, gained renewed global attention. People began seeing ancient scripture not as metaphor, but as historical record filtered through ancient eyes. New belief systems exploded overnight. Entire online communities turned into digital churches, worshiping the Anunnaki as literal gods. The first creators, the bringers of order. Others went the opposite direction, viewing them as manipulators, genetic farmers, or slave masters who bred humanity for their own gain and then abandoned their experiment. A dangerous split emerged between those who saw the Anunnaki as divine benefactors and those who saw them as cosmic tyrants. And just like that, ideology replaced evidence. The world wasn't just trying to understand what happened, it was choosing sides. Meanwhile, global elites moved quietly. Technology corporations began investing in ancient language, AI tools, and DNA anomaly research. Secretive groups bought up land near suspected undisclosed pyramid fields in Sudan, Turkey, and central China. Why? What were they looking for? Or what were they hoping no one else would find? Even within the intelligence community, whispers leaked of a Tier 1 compartment, a secret designation for extraterrestrial. Contact protocols that had been in place for decades, long before this discovery. Which begs the question, if these protocols existed, who created them? And what exactly were they expecting? In the absence of transparency, new cults began forming, blending science, Sumerian mythology, and UFO lore into strange new faiths. Some believed the Anunnaki were returning. Others believed they were already here, hiding in plain sight, influencing world leaders, manipulating society from the shadows. And one belief, perhaps the most chilling, began to spread, that the discovery in Egypt was not recent. That the government didn't just find the Anunnaki. They'd found them years ago, maybe even a century ago. They'd kept it buried, suppressed, discredited, until something went wrong. Until the site was accidentally exposed. Until a satellite picked up a formation it was never meant to see. In this version of the story, we are not watching history unfold. We are watching it leak, one suppressed truth at a time. And what we've seen might only be a fraction of what's already been uncovered, locked away, and filed under impossible. But in the face of global division and ideological warfare, one question refuses to go away. If we were created by the Anunnaki, what do we become without them? For the first time in modern history, humanity was forced to confront a reality older than religion, deeper than science, and more terrifying than any myth ever dared whisper. We are not alone. We may never have been. And worse, we might not be the main characters of our own story. In the weeks following the alleged pyramid leak, public consciousness began to shift. Not just in how we saw the past, but in how we saw ourselves. Every monument, every ancient ruin, every celestial alignment suddenly begged to be reread. Were the pyramids not tombs, but transmitters? Were ziggurats and obelisks not religious centers, but beacons designed to call back their makers? Science, too, began to drift. Theoretical physicists proposed new models of directed evolution. Astrobiologists reignited dormant proposals to re-examine Earth's rare genetic anomalies. Genes that don't mutate like others, brain functions still not understood. Dormant strands that may be waiting for something. What if our cognitive leap was not a random mutation, but a deliberate ignition? And what if that ignition wasn't finished? Across the globe, old institutions fought to hold on to their narratives, while a new generation began asking questions that had long been labeled dangerous. What is consciousness, really? Why does humanity feel separate from the rest of nature? Evolved, yes, but also disconnected. Why do we build upward? Why do we look to the stars? Why do we search so relentlessly unless something deep inside us remembers? Some began to theorize that we're more than biological beings, that the Anunnaki didn't just engineer our bodies, but hard-coded us with a calling, a recursive instinct to return, to awaken, to ascend. And yet, no contact has been made. No craft has descended. No voice from the stars has spoken. Which begs the most haunting question of all. What if they're watching? What if this entire journey, our civilization, our rise, our wars, our monuments, has been a test? Or worse, what if they left because we failed? In late-night forums and shadowy digital archives, a final theory continues to grow, that the discovery in Egypt was never meant for us, that its exposure was an error, a glitch in the secrecy, and that since then, certain groups have been scrambling to hide what was never meant to be found, not because we're not ready, but because we're not supposed to know. Not yet. A single cryptic phrase appeared in an alleged whistleblower's final message before they vanished from the web entirely. It was posted to a no-defunct thread, archived only by screenshots. We are the memory of something greater. But someone has stolen the instructions, and with that, the signal went dark. But is this really where the story ends? Or is it where the truth finally begins, hidden beneath the sand, buried in symbols, and whispered through myths, waiting to be remembered? In the heart of the Egyptian desert, a secret was uncovered. A body not of this earth, a tomb not made for any pharaoh. A message from the past, or maybe from something far beyond it. The Anunnaki, long dismissed as myth, now sit at the center of a global reckoning, blurring the line between legend and memory, gods and ancestors, humanity and its possible creators. Our understanding of history, of ourselves, of the cosmos, has cracked open. But maybe that crack wasn't a break. Maybe it was a door. And now that it's ajar, what else is out there, waiting to be found? Or worse, watching us, remembering that we were never meant to know. If this discovery really happened and was hidden, what else have we been kept from? Let us know your theory in the comments below. Do you believe the Anunnaki once walked the earth? Do you think they still do? Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what we uncover next. Because the deeper we dig, the more undeniable the truth becomes. And one day soon, they might not let us bury it again.